Have you seen this? The movie that celebrates the real spirit of Christmas, fear of a judgmental cat burglar who stalks your children.
Welcome to Have You Seen This?
The world's only podcast about obscure, overlooked, and misbegotten media.
All discussions will be spoiler heavy.
You have been warned.
This show would not be possible without the support of our patrons. If you would like to support our show, join us at patreon.com/haveyouseenthis. Patrons get the show a week early, and $5 supporters also get access to our Discord. Or you can tip us at our Ko-fi. Visit the link in the show notes. That's good, and I can tell you worked on the pronunciation of burglar since the last time.
Yeah, I put an apostrophe in there because I'm like, you don't need to just run through the whole thing. I put a little pronunciation guide.
Burglar.
Yeah. So this movie came to us as a suggestion on our Discord, which if you subscribe to our Patreon for $5 a month, you get access to the Discord. You find out about episodes before we've even recorded them. And also, if you want to bring movies to our attention that we didn't know about, yeah, maybe we'll do an episode on them.
Yeah, or just shitpost. We also encourage that.
So much shit posting.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're
much dogpiling people. It's great.
Yeah. It's wonderful. We're mean girls. We make fun of everything. It's fun. Just $5 a month gets you access.
Or if you want to, give us a little Christmas gift, we got a link to our Ko-fi in the show notes.
Yeah, and if any big podcasts want to adopt us, maybe snowball back a little bit of that money that I've given to you on Patreon.
Yes.
Do us a solid. It would we would appreciate it. It would be in the spirit of the season.
Yes, and by continuing to give us gifts, it assures that we don't grow up into weird Christmas-obsessed psychos who, wear ugly sweaters and play Whamageddon.
Gross.
Yes.
Do you want to sing the song so we ruin it for everyone?
I have had the rules explained to me. That doesn't count.
Oh, okay. So people can't sabotage you if you're playing Whamageddon.
Yeah, it has to be, as any senator knows, it has to be a legitimate Last Christmas. It can't be.
If it were, this is like how that time we were playing Mafia with a bunch of mutual friends, and you just like with the stab of a stiletto, just sabotage the game like an assassin. It was beautiful because neither of us likes games like Mafia. If somebody
not a fan
was
of social games,
right?
Not a fan of being social in general, really.
Yeah,
I'm on a podcast.
It's a waste of time. That's why all we do is podcasts. We don't leave the house. But if somebody was like, "Oh, let's play Whamageddon," I'd be like, "Oh, okay," and then I would go put on Last Christmas. I do it with AirPods in, so as not to spoil it for the other person, but I'd be like, "Oh shoot, I heard it. I guess I lose."
Look, we can post a link to Whamageddon rules in the show notes for anyone who wants to play. You still got a few days left. I don't know. Is it like not catching AIDS or something? Like, is that the...
See our episode on LA AIDS Jabber for more.
Right, yeah.
But frankly, I don't want to be in a position where I'm not supposed to listen to Wham.
No, because I celebrate that song year round.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great song, and also I think that the tragedy that no one really acknowledges is that George Michael died on Christmas Day.
God, that's so sad. And he was a comrade too. He was a communist.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He didn't fuck over Andrew Ridgeley. He made sure he was set up for life. He was very generous in his personal life.
Right.
Rest in peace, big man.
Yeah. Another person who celebrated Christmas was a mythical figure known as Saint Nicholas.
Right.
His origins have been lost to the sands of time. But some people have misinterpreted this sainted message of Christmas.
Right. And you might think from this movie that perhaps the protagonist is not keeping Christmas in the proper way. But
he keeps Christmas in his own way. This is the person who mentioned this movie in our Discord. I don't know if it was you or them that came up with it, but it was how would you describe this episode's subject, Christmas Evil?
Well, to do the preamble to that, when this movie was recommended to us by one Grand Wazoo, thank you, sir, you know who you are, I was like, oh, I'll take a look at it. Maybe it'll be good for the show. I don't know. And from the title, which is Christmas Evil from
Mm-hmm.
1980, I was expecting something like Silent Night, Deadly Night, 1 through 5.
Yeah, you're expecting like some kind of Christmas themed schlocky slasher.
Yeah, Elves starring Dan Haggerty, like the kind of thing that they talk about on the Red Letter Media Christmas specials. I
It's something
didn't.
that's just been like done to death.
Yes,
Like someone gets killed with a candy cane.
I did not expect a Christmas themed Taxi Driver.
Yes. Yeah, this movie goes harder than most Christmas themed slasher movies would.
It's a perfect Christmas movie for the end of the 70s.
Yeah. The 70s just wrapping themselves up.
Yeah,
With all
slouching
their
into the era of Reagan. Like, just
of
bad vibes. Bad
of
vibes.
the 80s corporate excess. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, the protagonist of Christmas Evil, it isn't just a Christmas themed slasher. It is actually about like you say, a lunatic who keeps Christmas in his own way. And
He's
I don't know
not
if,
well, folks.
no, he's not well. I don't know if this is again like another trend in the 70s, but I'm aware of other movies. Maybe it was just a zeitgeist of like it is people grow up weird because of something that happened in their childhood. I mean, I guess this would have been like the era of like repressed childhood memories and past lives and all that other woo nonsense that Jen you're more familiar with.
Well, yeah, like, curdled childhood. And coming out of
Yeah.
sort of the growing cynicism of the 70s, it makes sense. Like,
Hmm.
people were more frank about the fact that childhood isn't always like a golden time in one's life.
It isn't all just having a jolly red suited elf give you gifts for no reason.
Yeah, it's
Turns out the world's hard, man.
yeah, and sometimes a guy like breaks into your house and eats out your mom, which that can be
Yeah,
upsetting if you're not prepared for it.
yeah, because what curdled the Christmas spirit in our protagonist Harry as a kid, he encounters some this mythical thing that he can't process, and that is of course the female orgasm.
Which can only be induced by Santa. So you see why he goes to all of the households in the world at night.
Right? Yeah, that's why Christmas comes only once a year.
Woo!
It's like your mom. Yes.
Oh, Tim, she wanted me to tell you she had a really nice time last night.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
She says
Just,
better luck next time.
right. Well, just let me know when the Zelle payment comes through. I take Venmo.
I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus.
Yeah. I saw Santa Claus's South Pole. I don't know. So yeah, it is like his dad is Santa, and he's more or less eating out his mom.
Mm-hmm. This is
Well,
this is a lot for young Harry.
Yeah, and his brother's like, oh, also Santa isn't real, so he goes up to the attic to like self-harm just because he can't process all this. Where he's like, Christmas is supposed to be about like presents and Santa and mistletoe, not eating pussy.
Right. Or at least not like
Not so
to a
overtly.
major degree, yes.
Yeah,
Like,
not
it might be implied, but leaving a cookie out for Santa, but
yeah,
and
yeah. You don't want to see like Santa with like a beard of like curly dark hair. That's too much for this kid.
yes, because this was well before the razored pubic areas of the
Right,
late
yeah.
80s and early 90s. These were Christmas muffs.
Santa had a rich full beard, not just like a soul patch or
Yeah.
clean shaven.
Warm your hands with that, is what we're saying. To be serious for a moment.
Okay, I am being serious.
Now, another... I'm serious about that poon.
Right.
A big tell that this movie isn't just your garden variety, holiday-themed schlock. You kind of figured out from the beginning when I was expecting some kind of like cartoonish kill or something like that, but what you get instead is like a very well shot opening that begins with
Yeah,
like a
Santa's in that opening.
oh, he's sliding right down that chimney,
Right.
and with like a touch of the kind of softening filter to give it that like nostalgic glow. And then Santa comes down the chimney, and this is, the kid's dad or I don't know, maybe it's dad's coworker who's like, yeah, I'll play Santa for you.
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, maybe it's the mom's side piece.
Yeah, some guy comes down the chimney dressed as Santa, and right away you realize that there has been a deliberate choice made with the sound, because Santa like kind of struggles down the chimney, and he's a little bit out of breath, like. And then he like spots the food that's been left out for him, and he's like, oh, he starts, going to town on the cookies or whatever, and he's just like,
oh, he goes to town on someone's cookie, all right.
And it's and if you like me have misophonia, you're like, wow, well played, movie. And this is a repeating thing in the film, because a lot of the people who really get under Harry's skin are gross eaters, like chewing with their mouth open, like his awful coworkers. And
when Jen was a child, Cookie Monster was a true monster. Like nom 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 nom.
Cookie Monster's fine because like he's he's a Muppet. He doesn't have like a gross wet mouth.
I mean, you should just respect he has a different culture where, monsters make a lot of noise to show that they enjoy what they're eating.
Right, and they also speak monosyllabically, and it's ableist if you make fun of Cookie Monster for that. But anyway.
Yeah, and that finally caught up with them. That's why Sesame Street's been canceled.
It's sad. I mean, you see why Zaslav had to do what he did.
Yeah,
it certainly isn't
because
because
in the media.
He's a titanic asshole who wouldn't know valuable media if it sucked his dick.
He's just tanking an entire film studio that's existed since, I don't know, your parents were going to movies.
But remember, folks, the cream rises to the top, and we live in a meritocracy. See also.
Speaking of mythical things.
Right. See also our Congress where things are being fucked up right now by some weirdo South African.
Yeah, we really need to have a vigilante Santa come in and clean things up, which the movie is actually fairly prescient.
Yeah,
about. But we need to explain how we're going to get there first.
Right. Well, you'll see, as we describe this movie, you'll kind of see how it, in spite of being from a very different era, coming out in 1980, it is still extremely relevant to today's feel bad times. But so very apt use of sound in this to kind of put you in Harry's shoes, because this character is a little bit of a tough sell. He's kind of like the protagonist of Martin in that way. Like
the lovable serial killer Martin.
Yeah, exactly. Like you think, you start George Romero's Martin and you're like, okay, there's no possible way that I will enjoy watching a movie that centers around this person. Well, you'd be wrong, and Romero pulls it off. And in much the same way, as much as this is a weird, isolated, disturbed man, who, by the way, is played by Brandon Maggart, who is Fiona Apple's dad, gives a great performance, like really instills it with this humanity and sadness that keeps you watching.
Yeah, and like Fiona Apple, he observes the Christmas season around him, and he's like, this seasonal cheer is bullshit.
Fiona was really like Sinead. Like, people shit on her at the time. It was like, what? She was right.
Yeah, she got lambasted for being correct.
Yeah.
It sucks.
I hope you're well wherever you are, Fiona.
Oh, yeah, definitely. She maybe a pawn, but is acting like a king. I don't know that.
She's been title. A poet, a pirate, a puppet, a pawn, and a king. We've been up and down and over and out, but we know one thing. We got to keep talking about this movie.
Yeah, try to. Focus, Jen. Like you say, Harry is a bit of a tough sell because all we know is that he is a warped little kid who grew up into a warped, isolated adult, because we are introduced to him observing and making a ledger of children's activities, which is, in kind of a dark reimagining, sort of an Alan Moore esque approach to uh, recontextualizing Santa, where it's like, yeah, he's a guy who spies on children and then writes everything bad that they do down in a little book.
Yeah, and this is a hack observation by now, and we've moved on
Uh-huh.
to other figures like the elf on the shelf to really like
Oh, that narc.
emphasize the surveillance state that we live in.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah, but yeah, you would be as an adult, you would maybe look askance at someone that's like, yeah, I keep tabs on your children all the time.
yeah, and I think that this is one of the themes that the director Lewis Jackson is playing with here is that if you really think about Santa for longer than 15 seconds, you're like, "Hey, wait a minute. Like
Well, part of it is that
this
like,
could go in a fucked up direction."
yeah, well, part of it is that sort of blinkered '70s cynicism, where it's like, "Psh, yeah, a guy who hands out gifts. Like, what do you want out of this?
He hands out boxes filled with malaise.
Right, yeah. Or it's like, I don't know, like this guy who like he's dressed for cold weather. He only has one outfit. All of his possessions he seems to carry in a bag with him, and then he just like kind of breaks into your house. Oh, but he gives you stuff. And he loves your kids. That's why he's always trying to like ply them with toys. Like surely like man, open your eyes. Like this guy is bad news. This Santa Claus character. I
Right.
hear he sleeps in a van. You know, like
Yeah, and I think like after the 70s we moved on to, like your bad Santas and
right, yeah.
he became more of like a comedy figure. But
Well,
this
there's
is
also an image problem too, where Santa is really more a product of the Coca-Cola company.
yeah, which is another huge theme in this movie, one which the director has mentioned in interviews. Like the
Hmm.
image that we have of Santa was basically made up out of whole cloth by the Coca-Cola company.
Hmm.
And Tim mentioned the origins of Santa and the figure of Saint Nicholas, who was like a religious figure from
Yeah, antiquity. I don't know.
what do you
The
call?
past.
Okay, not God damn it! It's not
Not the.
Turkey. It's Turkey now, but what was it in at the time?
You're asking me. I couldn't name two movies from the '70s.
Well, let me take it again. So and Tim mentioned Saint Nicholas, who was like a religious figure from like Christian antiquity.
Hmm.
And he was a guy who like threw gold down your chimney and shit. But since
Yeah.
then, as you may have learned from our Yes Virginia, there is a Santa Claus episode. Santa has changed quite a bit and evolved in the 20th century. Hence the
Right.
jolly old elf of on the Coca-Cola can.
Yeah,
And
and the
the
in the
and the reason we have that theme in this movie is because you have Harry, once a young boy who very much believed in the spirit of Christmas, who was confronted by things that he couldn't really understand or handle, and who, as like a sort of childish adult, is continually driven crazy by how hypocritical the people around him are in not keeping the spirit of Christmas.
Right, yeah, and it isn't just Santa that changed. I mean, the times have changed. For example, if you had, I don't know, a migrant couple of no fixed address looking for a place to stay, and by the way, the mom had an anchor baby.
Oh God, are they Arabs?
They're well, you get out
Worse,
the
Jews.
yeah, you get out the Family Guy like skin tone chart. You're like, oh, that's not good. So yeah, Harry definitely is acutely aware of the hypocrisy of Christmas and people not really keeping joy in their hearts. Because he has a little speech about that at his workplace because he works at a toy factory. God damn it, two movies in a row about a cheerful toy factory at Christmas.
This one's
Ah,
more pleasant to watch, though.
true. Yeah, yeah. I'm not a fan of the other one.
I
But
mean,
yeah, so
Toys doesn't have any good kills,
yeah, I guess
unfortunately.
right. Yeah. Um, but yeah, you think that he's fortunate because he's been moved up to management. He's no longer working the line. even though he's got kind of a conflict in that because he enjoyed working the line. He enjoyed making toys.
Mm-hmm.
He embodies that spirit of Santa Claus to be like, I like that I make toys. That kids enjoy. Like I like childhood whimsy. Although, like again, if you say that as an adult with a straight face, be like, are you like one of those like beanie copter like weirdos? Like, do you have? Are you like Robin Williams in Toys again, where you're just like kind of annoying and trying to like cram fun into other people's faces when they don't want it?
Yeah, Harry
Like,
is a different kind of misfit. He's
yeah,
and this sort of complicated character that he isn't just like a sort of like an innocent crushed by the world. He does a lot of shit which is like really really questionable, to the point you wonder if maybe he wouldn't do better with some psychiatric help maybe, but
or
he
no, he's just not getting enough eggnog.
um I don't think Harry drinks.
Well, I mean, maybe like he might have like a hot toddy or something,
Yeah,
and
aren't
that's
isn't there
seasonal,
alcohol
right?
in that?
Well,
He would have hot chocolate.
look, I don't know canonically. I mean, I'm saying that like it is seasonal to have a hot toddy. I'm not on
Right.
trial here.
Well, and I am derailing, so I apologize.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, like Harry is not, and it's fortunate he is not like the wholesale innocent of Ron Williams and Toys. Thank God, this movie
Mm.
takes place in the real fucking world. um, but like the fact
yeah,
that the movie is willing to go in that direction, where it's like you feel bad for this guy, but you're also like, maybe this guy isn't like.
well, he is just at mercy of modern society. I mean, he had a job that he liked, but it's now he's in a quote unquote better one. Like he's in the management class now, so he's a traitor to to people of the same like economic class. And it also sucks because not working on the line, he's no longer protected by the union. Again, like sign of the times.
Mm-hmm.
It was a different era where it's like, oh, you were in a factory. Of course, you're in a union, right? And it is kind of ironic that it is him, like the individual, being bullied by the tough union guys.
Right. Yeah, and I think this is really important. The fact that that I mean, Harry doesn't really fit in with anyone, like not even his
Yeah, well,
family, and certainly not his coworkers who are like really cruel to him.
right, yeah. So when he's like, "Hey, you guys have to love making toys and enjoy your work and be happy," and then like, "Yeah, whatever. I'm off at 4:59 and 59 seconds."
Yeah, and in fact, one of the guys tells Harry like, "Hey, can you take my shift on the line because I'm going on vacation with the family and we want to leave
Well, yeah,
early."
it isn't just that they bully him, but it's also one of the guys is like, gee, boss, looks like I'm gonna be sick on the 24th. Think you can fill in for me? And
Yeah.
Harry, he's management, so it's like, well, I'm salaried, so yeah, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because like by contrast, you see like when there's scenes like the factory line, like the bell rings and it's tools down immediately. Like these people know that they're in a union. They're like, no, I'm not giving you a second of my free time. I have a life outside work. But not Harry.
We used to be a real country.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, he's caught kind of between a rock and a hard place where he's trying to like motivate people to like adhere to his really, I don't know, Calvinist version of Christmas.
This is the Paul Schrader story if he hadn't gone to Hollywood.
Right,
Like
yeah.
he had never seen that forbidden movie at like when he was 17 or whatever.
Right. Yeah. So he's, kind of he's sort of this like loser middle manager who like eats cereal while watching TV, which
What are you saying?
I put my bowl of cereal down before we started recording. I know about your misophonia. I don't want to be one of the bad characters from Christmas Evil.
Well, I appreciate that, Tim.
Oh, it's a pun. Christmas Evil. I get it.
Right,
Huh.
and also originally titled "You Better Watch Out."
It's also good. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like that they're recontextualizing this like sinister Santa just to go with these cynical times of what 1980, end of the 70s.
Man.
Yeah. So
Anyway.
this is a guy who just like it's supposed to be Christmas, it's supposed to be a time of joy, but he's getting pushed around. He's being made to work on Christmas, which again is another Santa parallel. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, enjoy your time off. I'm the one poor dope who's got to deliver a 500 million presents in one night. I'm the only guy working on Christmas Eve. Thanks.
Yeah, and as it turns out, his coworker wasn't actually going on vacation. He's just out drinking with the other guys from the
Yeah,
factory.
he's out being social and enjoying himself, which man.
Which is, anathema to Harry. But Harry doesn't take this well. He goes home and he kind of starts having a Jingle Bells soundtracked breakdown.
Yeah, he has kind of a psychotic break. Like he is, in the lineage of like Red Dragon or Manhunter or Rorschach. He has this sort of psychotic break where I would say, metaphorically, he is possessed by the spirit of Christmas.
Yes, and we witness a great becoming.
Right? Yeah. Um, there is also the I think it's before that though. There's also like the factory does have a Christmas party to like further kind of pour salt in the wound.
Mm-hmm.
A Christmas party I should explain to our younger listeners. There was a time when companies used to do nice things for the people who work there.
Yeah, and it was very obviously like a kind of veneer over the usual wage theft and labor exploitation. But hey, there were
Right.
perks,
Yeah,
and
the perks used to be like you could get drunk with, your coworkers and maybe like hit on someone who worked in another department.
right. Times have changed greatly, but
Right,
at
yeah,
this
HR frowns upon that.
but some things never change because at this party there's a TV playing an announcement from the head of the company.
Yeah, which I love the way that that shot is framed
Yes.
because it is the factory owner and he's telling them like, you're doing we as a company are doing good works. We're donating toys to charity, which also, by the way, that means that I need you to work harder. And also, it's kind of implied like donate to the company and donate to the fund, like donate your own wages for the charity that we are supporting. And he's telling you all this in front of a palm frond. Like this motherfucker's in the Bahamas who sent in a VHS tape to be like, hey, Merry Christmas, get back to work.
Yeah, because this movie is set in New York, and
Mhm.
this guy ain't in New York.
No, clearly not. And
Mhm.
he's also getting flack because he's, management now. He's on the other side of the desk, as they describe it.
Harry.
And yeah, Harry. And so he also gets to talk to other, make work managerial types, like someone's fucking nephew.
Yes, the
Yeah.
new guy who's full of really good ideas.
Yeah. Also, can I borrow some of your ideas so I can, like, to help him succeed?
Yeah, take credit for them and advance while you languish
Right.
in this
Yeah. Like,
position that you hate.
yeah, we're all a family here, which means we share your ideas freely, right?
Right. We're all a family, which means we will fuck you over without thinking twice about it.
Yeah, we will give you trauma for decades afterwards. As part of that conversation, that's where Harry is kind of getting into. The boss says that we're donating toys to, like this children's hospital, but he never really says how many toys. Like, is it just like a fraction of a piece of a percentage that may go to some sick kids, or is this really just sort of like a tax write off for like the broken toys that we can't get rid of?
What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. So he's kind of seeing like, hey, I think that these people might be using Christmas as some sort of dodge or
Hustle.
scam. Yeah, hustle.
Yeah, and there's another deliberate choice made here.
Hmm.
And this was a very great, like, ongoing scandal at the time. When we see the boss's Christmas announcement, when I watched this, I was like, holy shit, is that footage from Willowbrook? And what Willowbrook State School was an institution on Staten Island, which was intended for care of the developmentally disabled. Now, you can imagine like what sort of an institution this was. It wasn't great. Robert F.
Hmm.
Kennedy Sr. went to visit, and I think in the mid '60s, and kind of raised a stink about the conditions because they were appalling. It was basically a place to warehouse the developmentally disabled, and in
Yeah, like
fact,
Rose Kennedy.
right, Rosemary Kennedy.
Whatever.
Yeah, Rose was the matriarch, I believe.
Okay.
But this kind of came to a head in 1972 when an enterprising young reporter named Geraldo Rivera, yes, he used to be a shoe leather reporter, actually
Hmm.
did an expose on the Willowbrook State School, and there was a lot of footage like showing just how fucking awful the conditions were for the
And
people
then he
housed
found Al
there.
Capone's gold.
He tried.
Right.
He won a Peabody Award for this reporting. So yeah, like hard to believe he used to be a real journalist instead of like just like the token
Having
liberal
a
on
Nazi throw a chair at him.
News Nation. Yeah,
Yeah.
like he would sink to even lower depths than that, appearing on the Five on Fox News. But
Mm.
yes, it's footage from Willowbrook, and in fact, the institution in the movie is called like the Willowy State Hospital or something like that. And this was 1980. Like the facility itself didn't close until 1987, if you can believe it, even
Mm.
after this expose. But people were becoming more aware of like how awful conditions and treatment were there. And this is a very apt choice because yes, it's a New York movie, and that was a facility on Staten Island, but also like and it just hit me now as we're talking about it, like giving like the broken tax write-off toys to like quote unquote the retarded kids.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's
Yes,
everything about this
absolutely.
is
Yeah.
so cynical, and it hits you like a truck when you're watching
Right.
the movie.
Yeah, you might go into this thinking that it's like a Christmas slasher, but it's this like relevant, socially conscious horror movie recontextualizing like a dark Santa Claus. Like how, yeah, as it's been said, oftentimes lately, like in insane times. I'm fucking it up.
In insane times, the man with one shoe is king. I think
Right?
that's how
No,
it
is
goes.
that is that it's been said many times that in an insane society, like a sane person would look insane, right?
Right.
I'm sure I chowed that, but anyway, the
No,
point being that yeah, Santa or Harry, he's like, why can't we just be nice and give toys to crippled children? Like, why does it have to be like some kind of like tax evasion scam? Like, why does everything have to be like, oh, you need to work for me? I mean, no one has any kind of like generosity or cheer or anything of that sort.
mm-hmm.
So it's really getting on Harry's last nerve until he becomes thinking like in Taxi Driver, and Bickle gives his name, Harry Crinkle. He's Chris Kringle. It's kind of a it's a little overlap.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he becomes Chris Kringle, where like I said, he has that kind of psychotic break. He glues on the Santa beard, and he is fully become Santa at this point. He's insane Santa
Yeah,
out to like
he's wearing like a full like kind of like early 20th century Santa outfit with like real fur that's the fur trim is like dark, which is how he's actually identified later after his spree.
yeah, but just like Rorschach making his face from Watchmen, like he made his own outfit. He's been Jokerfied.
Yeah, and this was 5 years before Watchmen.
Right. So must have been something in the zeitgeist.
Yeah, Alan Moore would have liked this much better than Toys.
Well, as a sensible person and understander of media, yes, I think he would have.
Yes. And
Yeah.
also as an author who is continuously misinterpreted or interpreted in bad faith.
Right. Yeah. He's so far ahead of the curve that like people just have lost sight of what he's actually doing, and we only kind of get like the I don't know, bastardized attempts to recreate what he's doing.
Right. And in fact, this movie was not, I don't know that it was outright banned in the UK, but it did get lumped in with that first wave of video nasties.
Huh.
Because,
It's a shame because it's not that nasty.
no, it's not. And it gets categorized as a slasher, but it's really not because, and nothing against slashers because that is also like a wonderful and fun form of movie, but slashers tend to be about cool kills and terror and a final girl or whatever.
Yeah, just sort of like bloody set pieces and
yes,
really imaginative kills.
yeah. This, on the other hand, is about one man unraveling like in a really uncaring and cruel society at like the worst time of the year for like a lot of people.
Right. Yeah. Check in with your estranged relatives, by the way.
Yeah. Like,
maybe that's the lesson of the movie.
Yeah. Maybe call a friend. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he becomes Santa pilled at this point.
That's a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. and then he does, he in his capacity as sort of this outlaw folk hero, he pulls kind of a Robin Hood, and he goes back to the factory and he's like, "Oh, you don't know how many toys you're donating. Like you said you're going to donate some toys. You're going to donate some fucking toys." And he basically robs the factory and fills his van.
Yep.
With gifts for the kids. He goes
his windowless Santa van.
yeah. But I mean, again, he's on point with his persona because he's painted a sweet sleigh on the side of it.
Yeah.
Like any cool guy with a righteous van has got to have a cool painting on it.
Yeah, it's not a wizard. It's not a Frank Frazetta chainmail bikini babe.
Yeah, it's not like the dragon from that Asia album.
Yeah, it's a sick sleigh.
Yeah, it's got like Mrs. Claus is like bomber nose art. Like riding a reindeer.
Pin up Mrs. Claus.
Yeah. But yes,
wearing nothing but stockings.
That's right. Stockings hung around my ears with care.
Mm-hmm. Stuff those.
Yeah. But
Harry wouldn't appreciate us talking like this.
I know it's terrible. Oh, that reminds me, I still got to buy gifts. But yeah, but he also he goes and he robs some houses of people who's like, yeah, they didn't know how much they had to give.
Yes.
Or he's like, oh, that's a nice toy. I think more deserving children. He's redistributing wealth.
That's true because the houses that he goes into are like these are very bourgeois houses.
Yeah. Wealth redistribution, something that only rich people complain about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so he fills the van with toys, and then he drives them over to this orphanage, and a security guard out there reacts as any sane person would, where a costumed lunatic in a white van pulls up at night
and stammers out that he has toys for the children.
Yeah, it's just like, Santa, what are you doing? It's 10:30 at night. Like, get out of here.
And
who the hell are you?
And I really like this moment in the performance from Brandon Maggart because, like, at first he kind of comes on like not just way too strong, but like way too crazy because like he's really keyed up, and the whole night you can see him sort of like phasing in and out of his Santa role.
It's kind of like, I don't know, if you're watching Manhunter or something, you're like, oh, this is their like awkward first kill, or like they haven't really got it down yet.
Right, and as like someone who's fundamentally an introvert, like it is hard to be the guy who just walks into a room and yells "Merry Christmas" and like does like the full-throated laugh. But
right.
Harry like kind of sinks into it more and more, and suddenly he's able to play this role a little better for the security guard who is like, yeah, like I'm gonna get management or something. But it works out for Harry because like the staff comes outside and they're delighted by Santa.
Well, yeah, and he kind of helps. He takes a different tact with the security guard because part of it too is you walk the walk. Like if you look like Santa, if you act like Santa, people treat you like Santa.
You quack like Santa.
Yeah, fake it till you make it. You just like, it's the law of attraction. If you dress like Santa, people will invite you to parties. Maybe I should do that. Um, but yeah, so he learns that he's like, not to be an asshole to the guard, be like, well, I think I have a present for you. And the guy's like, oh, well, he's dressed like Santa. He's giving me gifts. He's being nice to me. This guy seems like he's on the level. And that is enough to get the staff out. And he's like, hey, I brought you all gifts. All you have to do is give them out. All you have to do is say Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
And
everyone's
yeah,
like,
so
yay, it's Santa!
because he acts as Santa does. And that is one of the things down on his list of things to do on Christmas Eve. So
Yep.
he does have a list. I don't know. It is inconclusive how many times he's checked it. But he does have the other, like, nefarious side of Santa that he needs to address next.
The bad kids.
Yeah, well, yeah, because he's not just nice to children, like giving them gifts, like giving the poor, invalid kids gifts on Christmas, but also he has a score to settle.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like I don't want to take a side one way or another, but Santa is a masked assailant who waits outside for an unconscionably rich person to exit a building, and he kills him with an improvised weapon.
Because I don't get it.
Mind, yeah, all right. Well, let me show you some CCTV stills. But yeah, earlier in the movie, Harry casts a tin soldier, again with the tin toys, with a distractingly long pointy sword.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, which then goes into the eye of one of the executives who's like, hey, can I steal some of your ideas and sort of line my own nest with them, pad my own resume?
Yeah, he maims some characters from a Whit Stillman movie, basically.
Right.
Some kind of snotty Manhattanites.
Right. And part of it, too, is that rich people just can't fucking help themselves. Like,
no.
Because one of them comes out and, like, I don't know, just is it in his nature to treat everyone like a peon who works for him?
That's a good point, yeah.
Yeah, because anytime that, and it is contrasted later when Santa gets invited to a party, but when Santa shows up outside this church, we're these very religious scumbags.
These people have just yawned their way through midnight mass.
Right, yeah. They come out and they're like, hey, Santa, nice fucking beard. Hey, where's your sack? Give me a present. And just like, oh, you're so getting a sword in the eye for this. And again, like, I don't know, what jury would convict him, really?
Yeah, that guy was a dick.
Yeah, it is funny, too, that, this Santa character, Harry, and another assailant doing the Lord's work.
If you know what we're saying.
Yeah. He's also a maker. I mean, one of them cast a tin toy, and another 3D printed the lower receiver of a Glock to make a ghost gun to carry out his joyous Yuletide cheer.
You know what I call that, Tim? I call that good old American ingenuity.
Yeah, we used to make things in this country.
Mm-hmm. It used to be a real country.
Yeah. Yeah, so maybe the lesson of Christmas is maybe don't treat people like shit. I don't know. So.
Well, I don't know about you, but I'm enjoying living in this new Gilded Age.
Right, yeah. I literally saw a homeless person warming himself over a fire in an oil drum the other day. I'm just like, yeah.
LA really has become the LA of Blade Runner.
It's something.
Except we don't have spinners.
Yeah, I know.
And we don't have...
we only got the shitty parts of the dark future.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Santa is on his way. He's coming to town. He's making a list. He's stabbing people in the eye. But then he's outside of a party where it's all the parents are dancing and drinking and having fun. All the kids are just like passed out because it's 11 o'clock.
Well past their bedtime.
Right. And this is where the movie gets the edge on Terrifier. I don't know if you listened to 20 or 30 episodes ago where I have no patience for that fucking movie.
Yeah, if you are like us, tired of that fucking clown, go listen to our Terrifier movies episode.
Right, yeah, but here's the difference is that if you saw like a Dust Bowl era clown just like scowling at you through a window, would someone be like, "Oh, hey, I love clowns. Let's fuck with the clown." And he's like, "No, this guy has problems." But if there's a psychopath with a bag over his shoulder, dressed in red with like white fur trim, like all jolly and seasonally appropriate, you'd be like, let's get this guy in for a drink. The life of the party is here.
Oh, and let's make sure the kids get to meet him too.
Right, yeah. And Santa does have a good time. Like he's invited to like share in the merriment of
Yeah.
these people enjoying Christmas, and gives the kids gifts, and they're happy to see him.
Yeah,
Um,
like a stand up on a good night. Santa crushes at this party.
right, yeah, he is. Captain Cook showing up in Fiji, and they're like, "Holy shit, this is that guy we've been waiting for." Not when he comes back and gets torn to pieces.
Right. Yeah, that was a big L.
Yeah, yeah.
He probably
Hey,
deserved it.
right. But yeah, so unlike Terrifier, it makes sense in this context where a guy who is a murderous psychopath dressed up like Santa gets invited to a party because it's the holidays, and you're like, "Holy shit, Santa's here!"
Yeah, and he's great. He cuts a rug. He does like Santa bits for
Yeah,
the kids. And this is another great moment when he does the obligatory Santa thing of like, "Will you be good or
yeah,
else?"
yeah.
And it's like
Or else,
honestly, this movie is pretty good at making you like hold your breath because you're like, what is this guy gonna do?
yeah, it rides the line of what is the other side of Santa? Like, where is
Yeah.
the bad Santa? Because keep in mind too that I think like the American Santa or the American Christmas like Krampus never really caught on
No,
because
we like the veneer of nice over our
right.
dystopia.
Well, part of it is that there's that duality of like Santa's the good one who rewards you, and Krampus is the one who punishes you. But like the punishment side kind of withered, and it just became like a negative reinforcement, where it's saying like, oh, if
Yeah,
you're bad, you'll get something, but it'll suck. You'll get a lump of coal.
right.
But it isn't like, and part of it too, it isn't that a monster is going to come in the night and then put you in his basket and then whip you and abduct you. Because part of it is that, well, your parents are going to have to make good on that if you're a real shitty kid. Otherwise, you can just be like, nah, fuck this kid. I'm returning these gifts. Like, that's a
Yeah,
lot easier than having a Christmas demon.
that's a good point because, and like I already hammered on earlier, like we're well at the time we were less about like the overt punishment and more about like the surveillance.
Right. Yeah. It's more of Santa's everywhere. Santa's in your mind.
Yeah, Santa's like Jesus. He has a million eyes all over his face.
He's a very big brother. Big brothers, he's just overweight.
A jolly
But
round brother.
and at the end of the year, he comes down to mete out rewards and punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah, just like the angel of death. I don't
Just
know.
don't ask about his old friend Svarta Piet. That's awkward.
Right? Yeah, we probably don't want to import any other European Christmas figures
If we have any Dutch
into.
listeners, they're sitting there like, what's wrong with Black Pete? I don't understand. Like, why are people touchy about that?
Yeah, I don't get it. From our 100% Caucasian population, what are you guys so uptight about? I mean, black people, like, your parents love it, but your kids, they're going to hate it.
Yeah. Ugh, you can't have Black Pete anymore because of woke. Mhm.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Uh,
Anyway, where
so
were we
many
with
88
Harry?
tattoos. uh, Harry, he gets out of that party, and he is able to resume going down his list of vengeance. His next stop is down the chimney of that malingering factory worker.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and this is where we kind of almost get into a The Descent situation because he's he's holding kayfabe where he's like, I'm Santa, I got to go down the chimney. He almost gets stuck, which it kind of sucks, not just for him, but like for me as a viewer. I'm like, Santa, why are you going through all this trouble? Like, back up the van, like just run a hose down the chimney and just flood the house with carbon monoxide. And I'm like, why am I helping him?
Wow, Tim, you want the kids to die too, you monster.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. I forget that, again, this is a targeted hit. You know, he buys a bus pass with cash out of Philadelphia through New Jersey. He just changes buses a couple of times while wearing his Santa beard.
Yeah, and just lowers it for a moment to flirt with a comely elf.
You know, that's what they say. Security is not a technology; it is a practice,
Mm-hmm.
and that is the mistake. Like, if you want to remain anonymous, it means remaining anonymous, 24/7. So
Yeah, it's unfortunate that everyone learned how hot this guy was.
right, yeah, I know, that poor bastard.
And it's totally not backfiring on them at this moment. Like, not in the least. Like, he definitely doesn't look like a sexy badass.
Right, yeah. Shame. Just like Santa, sexy badass.
I'm sure there's a Hallmark Christmas movie about that. Like, we had Hot Frosty. I'm sure there's Hot Santa.
Right.
I'm sure that's been done like multiple times. By the way, Hot Frosty to me sounds like some kind of deviant sex act, but
yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, who's to say that Santa isn't a bear? You know, a polar bear, sure.
oh yeah, true.
Yeah. So
And we know he'll eat you.
right, yeah, and he's a good daddy you can form a problematic relationship with. He's never there except for when he shows up to give you gifts. He's divorced Santa.
I'm glad Mrs. Claus is doing well.
Yeah, dating that new elf. No, she's dating Black Pete.
Oh, well.
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
Yeah, I'm not
Disney
going to
is
joke
so
about
funny.
that because I'm not Nick Mullen, so I'll just leave it.
Right, the only person with the license to be funny on podcasts.
Yeah. The rest of us can only dream of one day being funny on a podcast.
Shame, yeah.
Santa really.
Right, so yeah, Santa, he studies his target's patterns, he finds his address, he crosses state lines, and then he kills the malingering factory worker, but not before giving his kids Christmas presents.
Right.
Like, you think those kids aren't going to have a fucked up Christmas.
Yeah. The trauma's kind of spreading outward.
Yeah, Santa showed up, personally gave us gifts, and then slit their dad's throat.
Right. And also, like, gave mom severe complex PTSD.
I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Santa kill my husband on Christmas Eve. Weird. But because Santa's been out and about killing, and it's kind of a side plot. The NYPD is also on his trail. Cops desperately looking for their ass with both hands.
NYPD stays losing.
Yeah. Again, like, you may or may not have seen the video of NYPD like out on a stroll through the park.
Yeah, like walking through Central Park, I'm like, I don't know, like
looking.
Here's
for
a candy wrapper. I don't fucking know.
Looking for a known murderer, like he's a lost receipt.
Yeah, and it will and
they do not have a goddamn clue.
No, and I'm sure that the listener will not be surprised to learn that when Harry is finally tracked down, it's not by the cops.
Yeah,
it
is the vigilante
citizens.
Gets vigilanted.
Right. But we haven't gotten to that yet.
Yeah, because there is a genuinely funny scene in there of the cops, again, like in their just fucking ineptitude. Like, find all the guys who look like Santa at Christmas time. Cops like, okay.
Yeah.
So they have a lineup. They do a lineup of Santa impersonators. I don't want to assume, getting them to
well, like, I mean, because you have like a bunch of Santas in a lineup, which is already funny, and then you have the cops like telling them to say like, now go ahead, say Merry Christmas. No, say it like you mean it.
Yeah, give me the keys, you fucking cocksucker.
Yeah. Yeah, and the guys are like, Merry Christmas. No, like you mean it.
Yeah, and
Merry
I like too
Christmas.
that there's just like just like this throwaway like background line while two of the detectives are talking, like, oh no, he had dark fur line in his coat. It's none of these guys. But then in the background of the sentence is like, I have a toy factory to run.
Yeah, and another one is like, they arrested me in front of the kids.
Yeah, so I like that they're maintaining the Santa thing. So they're true
Yes.
professionals in this.
Yeah, like you got to keep Santa kayfabe.
Right.
Like
So,
you don't smarten people up to the business like just willy nilly.
no, because people forget the real meaning of Christmas,
Yep.
which of course is fear, as a couple of the cops speculate, because the movie does kind of have a reactionary thread to it, where it's like, hey, one of the good things is kids are scared now; they don't feel so entitled to getting presents.
Yeah, it does make me think of the bit in Freaks and Geeks where the one mom is kind of wistfully talking about how no one in the neighborhood will take her homemade cookies at
Hmm.
Halloween, and she's like, "When did the world get so mean?"
Yeah.
And that was a show like set around the same time. So like I think this really was like a cultural reckoning where the mass media was like really starting to deform our brains, and suddenly we were more aware of all the dark corners surrounding us.
Yeah, and that definitely like is something that people weren't prepared for, because when Harry and it's weird too, because like the movie kind of like jumps over a lot of things. Like Christmas Eve you think would be the bulk of the movie. Christmas Eve like comes and goes. Christmas Day, same story. It happens really quickly, but Harry, in his white windowless van with a sleigh drawn on the side, he goes to a very nice neighborhood, but that is where he's found out, because he's in kind of like this alley, and like he comes across some kids, and kids are like, "Yay, Santa!" because he looks and acts like Santa. So obviously, but the
Mm-hmm.
parents are like, "Holy shit, it's that guy from the news."
Right.
Yeah, and they're like embodying that 70s cynicism of like, this is that lunatic. And
Right.
the kids are like, yeah, it's Santa.
Yeah. And it's kind of it's wrenching to see like the kids kind of blind faith in this benevolent
Hmm.
figure, but this and this is not like this is not a well man, kids. Like
Right, yeah,
he's
they
not
they
really
don't have
what
that
he says
understanding.
he is. Yeah, exactly, which is what makes it like really heartbreaking.
Yeah, and it's a complex scene too, because one of the parents like pulls a knife on Santa, and it doesn't really go the way he thought it would. So it's like, did I just see Santa get in a knife fight?
Yeah.
Like it's really problematic. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're a kid where you're like, I thought he just gave presents.
Yeah, and this is the point where you're like, "Oh, this is a lot like Frankenstein," which is another influence like name checked by the director.
Yeah, overtly too,
Mhm.
because it is at that point where Santa is chased out of a nice neighborhood by villagers with torches.
Yeah, like they take the time to like light torches and go after
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, just this, transient who just kind of comes and goes as he pleases into your neighborhood to like come, endear himself to your children,
Yeah,
who will
nothing
enter your
wrong with
house
that.
whenever he feels like.
Yeah.
What's so weird about that? Why are you so uptight?
And I feel like it's a really deliberate choice that he's ultimately like run to ground and turned on in like what is
Mhm.
obviously like a really wealthy neighborhood because they got like the full like
Yeah, they have like what do you call it?
the entire road leading up to the neighborhood is just like completely lined with like light up decorations.
Yeah, they have decorations that are like, it isn't clear who they belong to. It's
Homeowners
like
Association.
yeah, it's like the HOA put these snowmen out,
Yeah.
because that's where your dues go towards.
Right, right, right.
Also, mow your lawn and put your trash cans up. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah, and Harry barely makes it out alive
Right.
because
Yeah.
he has a literal mob chasing after him.
Yeah, he escapes to like sleep in his van, which again, you're just like, this is like, I don't know, like it would be like seeing Kermit shoot up, you know? Seeing Santa like spending the night in his van.
Oh no, Piggy just couldn't take it anymore.
Right, yeah. It is also like in a way, another folk hero beloved by children. It's kind of like Darren Aronofsky's The Wrestler.
Yeah.
Like this is this kind of social outcast loved by kids sleeps in a van.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, and but yeah, he's able to escape that. But yeah, like you say, he's kind of run to ground, and really the only place left for him to go is to uh, confront or retreat to his brother's place
Right. And
because
we didn't elaborate much on this, but it's clear from early in the movie that Harry's relationship with his brother is pretty fraught. Like his sister-in-law sympathizes with him. She asks her husband, like, hey, maybe don't be so hard on Harry this year. But his brother is pretty fed up at this point.
yeah, to say that they have a complex relationship is kind of using the Tom Hardy version where it's just bad. It's just a bad relationship.
Right. And like this is still very much like a movie of the 70s because it's willing to make these characters like very human. Like there aren't really any heroes as such in this movie. And while his brother comes off as like a little bit of a dick toward Harry, you kind of understand why he's reached that point because Harry is like not living his life the way that he oughta.
Yeah, and I know Harry feels uh, sort of done wrong by his brother. Again, like it goes
Mm-hmm.
back to the thing from when they were six. But yeah, he shows up to his brother's place, and he is overdue. And that's the wife mentions this. Between the two of them, it's like, well, I know Harry has nowhere else to go, which is also kind of a bad sign, but also like telling of his character.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, picture this: it's Christmas Day, and your brother shows up like bloodstained,
Right.
and he's like, I kind of fucked up.
Yeah. Your brother who has been consistently fucking up since you were children.
Yeah, because he goes to see his brother, and he's like, I know I messed up, and his brother's singing him in the Santa suit. He's like, God damn it, I knew it was you.
Yeah.
Just like it had to have been you. Like who else would have taken this shit way too far and just made a mess of everything?
Yeah, and his brother is like kind of like he's a real like late
He's the
70s, early 80s dad. Like he kind of like snaps at the kids and like apologizes, argues with their mom like right in front of them.
Merry
But
Christmas, yeah.
yeah, but this is a man like many at the time who is not at all equipped to deal with what life has thrown his way because having like a
Yeah, he
relative
was the
with
good son.
yeah, like having a relative with like this level of untreated mental illness
Hmm.
is hard on him. And you sympathize
Yeah.
for Harry and you sympathize with Phil, even though both of them are not perfect people.
Yeah, it's a very 70s movie, real
Yeah.
talk. It's about like confronting like these interpersonal flaws that,
Yeah.
movies previously didn't want to address. Like culturally we didn't want to address that.
Yeah. And you're like, wow, like I don't really see how any of this is going to work out cuz
Yeah. Yeah, and like from Harry's perspective, you're like, "Oh, yeah, that asshole older brother of his."
mhm.
But when you understand it from his perspective, it's like, I have my own life and my own family, and I have to like manage you too. Like he's been
Yeah.
looking out for him, like keeping him out of trouble their entire lives. So yeah, absolutely he's fed up with him.
Yeah, and in the fairly cruel society that they live in, there's no framework for that. It's like you just know the mentality at the time was like Harry, like what, and Harry is relatively functional. I mean, he holds
Yeah.
down a job. He,
Yeah.
he was promoted at work. He's just like socially, he's not
He's
doing
not all there. Yeah.
well. Um, Obviously, like forget having a relationship. Like
Right.
no one is going to, no one is going to take a chance on the guy who has his house directed with Christmas shit all year round. There is something really wrong with this man.
He needs he needs his manic pixie dream girl. They can destroy each other.
Yeah, he needs like Zoe Deschanel from Elf.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Ooh.
can make a folie à deux.
Yeah, exactly. But there was no framework for helping a man like Harry at the time.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know, like just shape up, dude. Like grow up, go to your job, like be
Right.
normal.
Yeah, like everyone else says, just go to your job. And then if you don't like it, drink. Like we have plenty of options for that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it's clear,
Yeah.
like right at the beginning of the movie, this is not a man who fits in with anyone around him, not even his family. Although, like his nephews think he's great. They're like, "Dad, don't kill Uncle Harry!" As he's like strangling him.
Oh, the fun weirdo uncle.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see. Christmas is gonna be fun.
Yeah, and you know, in like a couple decades later, people are going to ask those guys like, why don't you celebrate Christmas? Like, you don't decorate the house, you don't really like do Christmas dinner or anything, and they're like, well,
Why don't we have Uncle Tim around anymore?
yeah, that's a long story.
Yeah. Sadly, like the brothers arc doesn't really get a whole lot of time. Because you understand, it isn't just Harry who is suffering in the situation. It
Yeah.
is it is him who's like it comes to a head because Harry has been like harboring this grudge through his entire life, but when he finally lays it on his brother, what, Phil?
Phil, yeah.
Yeah, Phil is like, you're holding a grudge from when we were 6.
Yeah.
It's like, I was a child then. Like, how can you still be mad about that?
Yeah.
Like, just to hang that on someone, it's like, what can I do about something from like when I was in kindergarten?
Yeah. And that's when, like Harry, he kind of breaks a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, he does sort of strangle Harry to unconsciousness and then put him in his van.
Yeah. And it's like, God, and this movie's dark because it's like, oh, like I just strangled your uncle, kids. I'm going to drag him outside and put him in his van and kind of pretend nothing happened.
Right, yeah. It'll work itself out.
Right.
Died of exposure, I think they said.
Yeah. And
but that's not the way the movie ends, and I don't even want to spoil it.
Yeah, we're gonna break with our tradition a little bit, and we won't. We're not going to telegraph the ending. It's not the expected ending, and it is ambiguous, so it can be interpreted a lot of different ways. But Harry does get one last punch in against his brother before he drives off in his sick van sleigh.
Yeah.
And then the movie
There to spread Yuletide cheer.
pulls off a weird kind of chipper ending.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, as the viewer too, you're like, I don't even know like who we're watching at this point.
Right. Like who's and
how much of this is really happening?
right. And a lot of the ambiguity comes from the fact that like you see his brother like observing what is happening, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So yeah, you can interpret it a lot of different ways. And I should point out, because I haven't mentioned it yet, this movie is freely available on streaming. It's on someone put it on YouTube, but there's probably a better copy on either Tubi, or which is free with ads, or Canopy. If you have a library card, you can rent it there. I believe there's also a Vinegar Syndrome release of this film. And our listener who recommended it to us watches it every year. And other fans of this movie include John Waters, who actually has gone to bat very enthusiastically for this movie. And hey, I mean,
it's a dark movie that is the sign of the times.
Yeah, and when John Waters speaks, I listen. So this is very much worth your time if you want kind of a dark take on the holiday season, and you're not going to get a slasher. You're going to get a pretty dark drama about a man like absolutely losing his mind. And I know quite a few of you will be enthusiastic when you hear that.
I hear they found a copy of this DVD in a backpack by the carousel in Central Park. That radicalized him.
Yeah, and it's also very relevant to today's dystopia. So check it out.
Santa says to kill CEO.
And before we go, I should also mention that our we're going to finish out the month with another holiday themed episode. Because of scheduling conflicts, we are obliged to record it on
3. Oh, we're like an advent calendar with like 3 doors.
Yeah, and it's all those little fucked up Peanuts figures that Sean Thompson has been posting on Blue Sky. Because
I think you're a little better,
right? And I won't spoil our next one, but it's going to be a doozy, and we're having a guest for that, and we're recording it on Boxing Day, so it will be in your stocking on the 29th. So look for that at our Patreon. Also, play Last Christmas at every opportunity. It's really funny.
I mean, just play Last Christmas at every opportunity. It's a good song.
It's a good song, yes.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, you can show your support by going to patreon.com/haveyouseenthis and make a pledge at the $2 or $5 tier. $5 a month gets the latest episode before everyone else, plus access to our Discord, where we're always arguing about movies. If you'd like to give us a tip, our Ko-Fi link is in the show notes.
Yes, Premier Kissoff. Yes, I can hear you just fine. Would you like to turn down your radio?
All right, go ahead, Dimitri.